Good morning, everyone. This is the F5 Recovery Radio here on KRFF 95.9. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you. We have another amazing show. This is your host, co-host, I guess, One Pretty Ricky. I'm joined with Kirsten Huovinen, who's live here in the studio. And then we got my man, Adam Martin, coming in live from Bismarck. So welcome.
From B-Town,
Thank you all for being here. How's everybody feeling?
Good.
Good.
I was
Can you
getting
hear me?
groceries the other day, and I saw you on a magazine.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Good for you.
Doing all sorts of cool
For
You
like
guys
things.
hear
good
me?
stuff. It wasn't for...
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, I've asked 3 times. No
Oh.
one said
Oh.
anything.
I didn't hear you the first 3 times.
Oh.
I'm just kidding.
4 times a
Like, all
charm.
right, well,
That's what
here
my
we go
kids say
again,
when I
guess.
yell at them. They're always like, why are you yelling? I'm like, well, the first 10 times I asked you, I was very calm. But this 11th time is when you heard me. Like, geez, you're just coming in so aggressive.
Yeah, things are good. I'm out here for a government conference with the, I think it's the Native American Commission by the state putting it on. I looked at the agenda, and it looks like all the tribes are going to be represented here, and they're all going to have time to speak. It kind of feels like it's like the you know how like Doug has like the State of the State address or whatever. I feel like this is kind of like the tribe of the tribe address or whatever. So and then I think the governor has some time and the first lady, and then there's a bunch of breakout sessions. So I'm here for that, and then I'm also here to help a couple guys in the prison launch a podcast, and so they got approved.
That's cool.
There's a pod that's funded by the Vera Justice Institute in the prison to do like mentorship and like trauma healing and a bunch of really cool stuff with like kind of, guys who've been in prison for a while and then some new guys that are only going to be there for a little bit. And they asked if they could launch a podcast and they approved it. So I'm up here helping. Ricky, you should actually be the one up here helping because the stuff that they need help with is like Adobe Audition and mixing and stuff like that. So I think in the near future, I'm going to set up a time for you to come up here with me, and so you can walk them through that stuff. Because I'm just like open file. Here we go.
Call Ricky.
Whenever something doesn't work, just close out of everything and start over.
What are the topics they're going to cover? Because that sounds really interesting. The stories they have are amazing.
The cool thing about these two, Antonio and Zach, is that they're pretty outside the box thinkers. So they're going to walk around the prison with a microphone and in a recording capability to like record sounds that they can use for the buttons to like play the sound or whatever during their show or whatever. So like a slamming door or keys or, lunch trays hitting the table or, stuff like that. But they're going to cover, a lot of the stuff that's going on in Unity Village, like the mentorship stuff, the trauma healing, the, just the engagement with, how to engage with like just how-tos and prison life and to make it more familiar to the outside that it's not as bad as the the TV shows it to be.
Yeah.
It's going to be really cool. So they got a couple, Ricky and I are going to help with like the distribution of their podcast out onto, through Anchor to all the podcast channels. So they'll be on Apple and Spotify and everything just like us. And then Securus, the company that owns the tablets that are in the prison, are going to make their podcast available on all their tablets throughout their entire ecosystem.
Whoa. So
they got 250,000 tablets out there with residents throughout prison, so they'll be able to hear this podcast.
Wow, that's new. That's cool as heck.
Yeah.
That'll be great. That'll be, really great. The opportunity to share in people's success stories, not just the how you got there.
Right.
You have a whole big other life other than this incident that maybe made you on the front of the forum or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah. So that's awesome. So yeah, so stay tuned for all of our listeners and different things. So obviously, we've discussed it before. It's kind of coming together. So eventually, we'll be able to hopefully try to figure out a way to like pre-record one of our shows so we can kind of have an interview with them and kind of have it on the show. And so we have a lot of like cool things. So we just want to. I mean, again, this is unprecedented. Makes it, unprecedented would be the right word. Like, it's just unprecedented, this level of access and being able to give these people, an opportunity to be able to like showcase something, and again, being able to do it in a way that everyone can get to listen to it, and it's not like sensational, and it won't be, like TMZ where it's just like all of that type of stuff. Like, this is just going to be real, and we're going to be able to kind of just keep it raw, which is going to be really, really cool for people to be able to have that access and be able to know, and most importantly for all the people who are inside to be able to say, hey, there are other opportunities even while you're here for reform. So it's gonna be cool.
Dude, there's only one other podcast that I know of, and it's called Ear Hustle, and I think it's in San Quentin or something like that, in the entire prison complex.
Yeah.
Like this is a big deal. And just like how, like, it's, I don't know, man, it's just super cool. Like how awesome it is that they just let me just like walk in with a notebook and a pen and just go right back to the pod. And they have this podcast station built out inside the prison with soundproofing and 4 microphones and a mixer and a laptop. And we're sitting there like going through this whole thing. And I was like, you guys, this is crazy that this is happening. And he was like, yeah, we really, I need your help with this laptop. And I was like, yeah, so this is how you do this and do this. And he's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. This is legitimately the first time I've ever used a laptop in my life.
Jeez.
Have they covered, when you were able to talk to them, that's cool. Were they able, what do they want to use this platform for? What is their, what do they want people to know?
They want to just know that, like, about the programs and all the partners that are helping out with this, right? And that they're going to interview leadership. They're going to try and get an opportunity to interview Doug Burgum, right? Like, they're going to try and do all this stuff and just ask questions about, change and turning away from their lives. And it's basically like F5 in the prison with guys who are still currently incarcerated. Has nothing to do with F5, but that's the closest comparison that I can make it. In the name of the podcast, right?
Yeah.
Is going to be Chains.
Oh, I get it. Very clever. I like witty things.
Yeah.
Were they able to come up with that too, or did they have to?
Yeah, they came
Okay,
up everything, cool. The equipment list to the logo, the name, they've done it all. Like, now it's just getting to the technical aspect that they don't really have. I mean, this is like the problem that most people who are coming out of prison have, is like they have insanely awesome personalities. They can adapt to situations like faster than anyone else. But when it comes to like the hard skills, like the technical skills that for stuff like that, they just don't have it. So that's, I know once we get them, I was like, at the end of the day, just create content, just make as many podcasts as you possibly can, and we can figure out the rest in the end. Like, for sure. After they're done. So
I think it'll be great that they, it'll be great to have people on for leadership and stuff like that. But just them sharing their stories that is what ignites other people to try, and to not give up when you don't know the technical side, or you don't know, I don't know a ton of things, but I know, like, I usually know somebody that knows it, so.
Yeah.
And Laura had a question, said, do we work with any youth JDCs through F5? Are we...
Like the juvenile detention centers?
Mm-hmm. Could we share a little bit about...
Yeah, we go over to the Moorhead one every once in a while, but we don't have anything like in agreement or anything. It's just kind of one-offs.
Right. Yes, I mean, but there's definitely, we're doing a lot of mentorship. So Leonard and Adam and different ones are working with the alternative school in Moorhead for just some different programming that we do with them and mentorship and connecting the students that are in, kind kind of in different situations, connecting with them, with like people who have lived experience, who have been in those same situations. And it's been awesome. Like Leonard has posted, and I think we've shared it with our F5 page, about some of the students who have graduated, like actually because of, his help and kind of coming along and being able to say, hey, let's do something different. And like he showed, so it's always fun because Leonard he has such a very interesting personality, and like the way he like connects with people. Like he connects with adults the same way he does with the kids. Like he's like in their face. He shows up to their house. Like he's like, why aren't you in school? Like doing all these things, like, but doing it in a way that like not just like a security guard or principal, like, oh, stay in school. It's like, no, I'm going to take you. Like I will get you to school. I will do whatever it takes to make sure that you get there. It's like, all right, you've had this many days absent. We got to make sure we can stay on top of it, get your test done, all these different things. And then to be able to see his post about these students who are graduating because of the effort that's there, it's just really, really awesome. And so I think it's one of the cool aspects of a lot of the things that we have kind of our public programs, like, oh, these are what we do for DOCR. This is like this podcast we're doing a lot of that. But it's cool, like some of the smaller unknown things that we're doing.
And really like my youngest son is dyslexic, and so he's struggled with school. And he's also, because we're very tall, he's the tallest, and he came home and said, I don't want to be the biggest and the dumbest. And then I was bawling. I'm like, this is heartbreaking. But his fifth grade year, he had a teacher named Mr. Tweeten, and Mr. Tweeten found the things Charlie was good at, and instead of excluding him and sending him off to do different things because he can't read really well, he found these little things that Charlie was good at and just praised him for it. Yeah. Gave him so much confidence. And then because of that, he was reading better. He was more motivated. He felt included. I mean, it just proves if we're inclusive and just believe in these people a little bit, it just goes so far. It goes so far.
Yeah. Which, speaking of believing in people, it is now 8:15. So again, if you're just tuning in, this is the F5 Recovery Radio here on KRFF 95.9 LPFM. So this is One Pretty Ricky, Kirsten Huovinen, Adam Martin. If this is your first time listening to our show, we talk about a variety of different pieces of recovery and justice reform and a lot of other really amazing topics that we do every week here on Wednesdays. But also want to make sure that we just shout out that if you, we have some like really great subscribers who have subscribed to our podcast as well. So please make sure you do that if you haven't already. But today we're going to be talking about some risk taking, and we've kind of shared a little bit about some of the new, programs that we're kind of getting going. But just in recovery, I know sometimes taking that leap of faith, if you will, to be able to get clean for the first time, and just, kind of just tackling what risk-taking looks like in recovery, especially when you've either just trying to get sober and just trying to get clean, but also looking at it from the perspective of, okay, if I've been clean, for any sort of substantial amount of time, what does risk-taking look like then? So, yeah, so the first question is like, what was some of the scariest risk that you had to take when you first got clean?
Geez, I don't know. That was a while ago. I always said I hate change, but that's not true. That I hate change that inconveniences me. I don't mind like making more money, change like that. I think just in the last 2 weeks, I was put back into a place, and I've been in recovery for a long time, where I was like nervous and scared and just like all these feelings that I just haven't had in a long time. So it was eye-opening to be like, oh, this is what this is like again. But we had an opportunity to, prior to my husband and I getting together, he had a daughter, and he is very open about, like, he's like, I messed that up. I didn't know how to handle it. I was 19. He just has so much regret and all of that stuff from that. And then he got into recovery, and in his recovery, that's been a piece of his life for sure, but our lives together, that he can't forgive himself. He can't move forward. The whole thing is like, it's an unhealed wound. And he had made peace with the idea that this might just be like this, and he was okay with that. But he never gave up trying to connect with his daughter. And 2 weeks ago, we spent a week with them in Jacksonville, and it was like, I got there and I'm like, oh my gosh, what if they don't like us? You know, like, what if we're too out there? You know, all this stuff. And I could tell my husband was nervous, which he's hard to read in the first place, but he's hardly ever nervous, or it doesn't seem that way. But it just meant so much to him. Like, it was just, I don't know, it was life-changing because she and her husband and daughter, the kindest, you know what I mean? Super inviting and open. And we just never saw that coming, that ending, you know? And it was it was risky. It felt risky. And who knows, maybe we did bomb it, and they're just very nice. But it was, anyway, I just can't, my heart is so full. It was the coolest thing to see, well, especially to see my husband, you know, kind of, I don't know, heal that scar a little bit, you know? Anyway.
Which, I mean, that's a really big, it's a big thing to be able to continue to put yourself out there to try to have a relationship with someone who very easily could have been like, nope.
Yeah,
or
for
just,
sure.
you know, said nothing, or like, I don't want anything to do with you because of the past, you know.
And because you're kind of a stranger, you know, yeah. So her willingness to get to know us was, I don't know, it just worked out. It was one of those stories with a happy ending, which is amazing. So,
which doesn't always happen. Like, sometimes you take that risk, you take that leap, land flat in your face, and it's like, whoop, that was dumb.
Yeah.
You know, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, do I do that again? Do I not do that again? You know, but I think that's, I don't know. I used to be, which is super funny that I used to be, like, growing up, I used to never take risks. Like, I was so, like, afraid of hurting myself, and just all, like, my self-preservation.
Physically hurting yourself?
Anything. Like I don't want to, like, I don't want any emotional hurt. I didn't want any, like, physical hurt. Like, I wanted to be, like, if I could live in a bubble, I would have, because I'm just like, all right, cool. You know, I'm protected from everything. Which is weird that I picked gambling of all the things, like, that all gambling's literally all about risk. So somehow, like, that just went to the completely opposite side. But it was still one of those things, like, even, and then it was the weirdest part. Like, it was scarier to, like, what does recovery look like? Like, it felt like recovery was the bigger risk than it was even gambling.
Right.
Like, somehow, like, playing, you know, when I was doing pull tabs or blackjack or whatever it was like, that didn't, I mean, yes, it was a risk, but it didn't feel like a risk. It didn't feel like, it was like, oh, you know, if this works out, awesome, it'd be great. You know, love to win a hand. If I don't, that's okay too. But then to get clean and be like, what am I going to do if I don't have gambling? Oh, I don't know. And then just freak out and just like, oh, I'm like, what the hell? How backwards,
I know.
Weird, twisted thinking with that I have about risk.
And I always thought, I don't want to fail, and then I look dumb. But believe me, I looked dumb sitting topless on a Sinclair dinosaur before I got sober. You know what I mean? So this is not looking dumb. And I tell my kids, like, life's not fair. Move forward. Right. Even if you fall flat on your face, you're moving forward. Yep. And I've always thought, like, if I'm not uncomfortable, I'm not getting better. I'm not changing anything. Yep. And life is risky. And I don't think, I like how Adam uses the phrase pivot. I think there is no roadblock. There's just a different direction. Right. And a lot of times when I don't get what I want, I just think, okay, the universe is preparing me for what I want. Right. I need to go a different route or know different things and when I'm grateful, if I can start with gratitude for what I already have, and I'm happy with that, everything just kind of falls into place. It does seem like magic sometimes. And I was listening to the Matthew McConaughey audiobook Green Light. Yes. So now my internal dialogue is Matthew McConaughey. But, which isn't bad. That's fine. I'm sure he'd want to talk to me. Anyway, but it's a really good book. He just has a really great way of using his personal stories, you know, just like in recovery, to, I don't know, make you more aware of the roadblocks I'm putting up for myself that they are not there. That is not real, you know? Anyway, I'm my own worst enemy for sure.
Yeah, you are.
Nah.
I turned off I don't know if you guys can hear the air conditioner ever. I turned it off a bit. Apparently it's like running on ghost mode, but there we go. So the biggest risk that I probably took early on, at least in recovery, was, I mean, nothing that I've done in recovery has ever been in comparison is the amount of risk that I took when I was still using, right? Like it was, but it felt more intense because I was sober.
Yeah.
It's like when I was out like getting drunk and stealing cars and taking that kind of risk or whatever, I don't think I ever really thought about it like I did when I went to like my first meeting, and then there was like a bunch of people there that I didn't know, and I had to like get to know them. That was like really risky for me. Like it felt really risky for me because it was like really intense.
That's crazy.
And
it's more comfortable to do, Grand Theft Auto than
yeah,
than say, "Hi, I'm Adam, and I don't know what I'm doing."
Yeah. If I ever give a talk
true.
like on entrepreneurship, I'm going to be like, listen, the people you want to invest in are the ones that had no problem stealing cars and selling drugs because they know how to take risk and they can. But the problem is that most of those guys it feels like an insane amount of risk to do things, right? Because it's just like really uncomfortable and never done this before. Like go up and shake people's hands, wear a suit or whatever, stuff like that. But I mean, because you always have that, what would you call it, that like the thermometer of risk or whatever, like it dramatically goes down with experience, because you always think like, man, I used to steal cars and I'm getting weirded out about walking up to the CEO and shaking his hand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was probably his car. Like it's not that. It turns into being a much bigger deal than it actually is.
I think it's huge. It was also scary for me to get really involved in recovery, because I felt like I'd said this so many times before, like, I'm going to be sober, everything's going to change. And then I let everybody down again and again and again, and you let yourself down, and then it's just like, I really don't know what I'm doing, because I felt like I was doing all the things they suggested, but I mean, I was doing them filtered through my what I actually want to do. But it is scary. It's scary to tell anybody you're in recovery, or I don't know.
Yeah. I think that part was definitely scary. Like once I got clean, then I didn't want to tell anybody. I didn't want anyone to know. And then I was like holding the who you see here. How does it go?
What you hear.
Yeah. Let it stay here, here. Like I was like, no, I don't want anyone to know, because I was so afraid of not even the judgment, but just like people wishing me to fail. I just assumed that there's going to be all these people who always trying to stay clean, huh?
Yeah,
then somehow like they were going to come out of the woodworks to like either trip me up, or that they didn't believe me, or like if anyone, I was so fragile that someone would be like, if they just, even if I had like a week clean, they'd be like, "Oh, you're not sober." That would just spin me out. I would just
not anymore.
Yep. And it was like, you're right. And then I would just go like, and I felt like I had to like protect that. So I'm like, I don't want anyone to know. Obviously, like,
you don't want anybody to know that part, but
the
making the paper for that's fine.
But somehow like that was fine. I was like, I don't mind being there, but like I don't want anyone to know that I'm like working on me.
Yeah.
And I'm going to treatment, that have all these therapists and doing all this work. Like I wanted to do the work, but I didn't want anyone to know that I was doing the work, because I was just so afraid of the back. It's like somehow, I don't know. I just assumed there was gonna be all this backlash. Why is it so black and white?
Why is it like you have to be? You know what I mean? Why can't there be recovery as a process? So anytime somebody says, "I'm going to be in recovery," oh my gosh, just try and be as supportive as you can.
Yep.
And if they trip, they trip. Nobody does this perfectly.
Right.
And I think every suggestion I was given, I just thought, well, I'm going to try it my way first. And I don't learn really by someone saying, I suggest you do it this way. I have to physically burn it down myself, and then I figure it out.
That doesn't work.
But that's still a process. It's all
Right.
gray area, you know? Anyway, but it shouldn't be all or nothing. And the fear of looking dumb, like I already look dumb, so. Like, I don't want anybody to know I'm alcoholic. Like, oh, they know. You know what I mean? You're not hiding. Just because you're going to a meeting now doesn't confirm. It's confirmed.
Oh, yeah. But I think, but that was like one of the best parts of recovery is just like, and it's funny that you guys both had like that scariness of like, oh, like shaking hands and like being involved. And it's like, well, that was like one of the best parts. Like I wanted, like when I got into recovery, it was like making the coffee, leading the meetings, doing all those things. Like I just jumped into right away because I'm like, I don't want to just be a bum. That doesn't sound right. But like, I just didn't want to like just be that person who was just showing up, not doing anything because there was not like, if there was any sort of volunteer activities, even when I was using, I was just doing all the things. I was volunteering. I was just so involved in the community. And so now I was like, oh, okay, it's just a little bit different now. I'm just involved in a different community now. But it was like, that was the thing that I didn't even have a sponsor about that, but it was just the first thing I wanted to do right away. So like there was no risk in doing any of that. But like for you both, it was like, I don't want to do that. I'm like, what?
And you're very Mr. Personality. I mean, you're just like, you're charmer, you know? So, but there's like small miracles in your recovery. For whatever reason you wanted to do that. For whatever reason I ended up in a meeting with all guys my age, which was attractive, and that's why I stayed. And you know what I mean? Like, if you just kind of trip into it. And once you get to know the people in recovery, it's kind of this unbreakable bond. It's like this immediate connection, but it's just like any illness you would have. If you meet someone with the same illness, you're going to relate on a whole bunch of symptoms. There's details will be different, but if you start looking for what's different, you're not going to want to be there, like it's going to be super uncomfortable. Yeah. But it's going to help.
So the next question I wanted to kind of tackle, so obviously in talking about taking risks, has there been any risks either in recovery or just any portion of your life? Like the hope is that every risk taught you a lesson. It's like, oh, I did that, even if it didn't work out as well as it did. Was there any risk that like, this was dumb, I did not learn anything from this, I will never do this again?
Oh, so many. I can't even, and I guess I don't, I try not to look back on anything as like I failed just because my ego can't handle it. But it's just like I tried it a different way first, or I really thought that was going to work and it didn't. And just to be after I'm all heard about it, just to be able to look back on it and say, I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the times in my life that were the darkest because they've turned into the most beautiful times in my life, honestly, Yeah. If everything works out, you have a vanilla, boring life.
Right. What about for you, Adam?
I think that, well, the thing with risk, taking risk on is that you don't know if it's going to be, there's a thin line between stupid and genius. So it's I know many times that I told people what my ideas were going to be and it was like crazy. And I honestly think that we only get one life. So it's like, if you don't sound crazy when you're talking about the things that you want to do, then I don't know how happy you can truly be when you actually pull those things off. Right. Cause it's like, Kirsten said that we just don't, doing, nothing or doing the bare minimum. Like, it's just kind of a vanilla life. Like, so for addicts and alcoholics, there's like this dopamine rush. And I think we're incapable of like not doing amazing, great things. And if we don't, we tend to kind of fall back to who we were or what we were doing before. Cause there's no rush. Right. And so, there's no rush of happiness or rush of joy or there's gotta be a rush. There's gotta be something. So like, I didn't know if it was going to be, when I took my job at High Point and I, applied, when I was applying for a bunch of jobs that I didn't think I could get, like it was just a bunch of different stuff. and it all and it all, as long as effort was being put forth, there was really no such thing as like a roadblock or a failure, because there was always a pivot that was available at any moment.
Mm-hmm.
Any, like, you can literally pivot at any moment. You can pivot like while you're doing good to go in a different direction and see that it ends up going bad, so you pivot back the other direction. Like, it's just one long journey of like trying to navigate the road. And so no, I don't think that I don't regret any. I think that my biggest regret is I wish I would have done it sooner. Like, everything that is good in my life, I wish I would have done it sooner. But
Right.
you could make the argument that it wouldn't be as good as it is today had
Yeah.
I done it sooner.
Right.
Like, everything leading up to this point, like, how do I explain this? Gary Vee talks about, like, he gets a lot of credit, and he gets a lot of, like, attaboys and you're amazing. And I get a lot of that stuff. And they're only basing it off the last 5 years, right? Like, people have only really known me for the last 5 years, right? And so, what they don't know is all the failures or the setbacks and the stuff that led up to that moment. And now I'm at the point where I believe all the last 5 years is a direct contribution of all the ups and downs prior to that. So now I don't even see that those things were setbacks or failures or whatever, but they were things that led me to the moments that I am most blessed for now.
Yeah.
And just that change of perception. I mean, to look at something in life as like, well, when I was in the first 5 years, I suppose I was sober. I can't remember who said it or whatever, but probably Adam, Anyway, but someone had said that my feelings are not who I am. They're a guide. Like, if something makes me sad or goes wrong or whatever, like, I'm just going the wrong way. I am not the sadness. I am not the failure.
Mm-hmm.
Just going the wrong way. And the things that bring me joy, that's going the right way.
Yep.
And if you change your mind, if you declare something one day, like, I'm going to start running or whatever, and then the next day I'm like, it actually sucks. I don't want to do that. Do that. Nobody remembers any of that stuff. All they I try to teach my boys, like, we have one rule, and that's just don't be a jerk. You know what I mean? That's the one rule. Don't be a jerk. Because in life, people won't remember all the things you did or what you said even. They'll just know by looking in your face if you were kind or not, And half the time, most of the friends I have, I still don't know what they do for a job or all of their things they're worried about succeeding in. Like, I don't even, what do you do again? So if I realized earlier how less I'm thought of, I think I'd have done way more things, you know? And yeah, like Adam said, so what? Somebody looks at you like, well, good luck with that one. Who cares? Who cares?
Yeah.
I can't let their fear impede my moving forward or whatever. But anyway.
Yeah. It's like the butterfly effect, right? Like, we, every action has a reaction, and like the butterfly's wings at one point in time could lead to a tsunami on the other side of the world, at a later date, and so I think we get the biggest problem for people like us is that we make long-term decisions based on short-term emotions.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, when we're in the heat of the moment, we tend to think that it's never going to change. It's always going to be this way.
Right.
Why do I even try? Right. Kimberly asked a question a little bit ago, and it says, do you ever get to a place where you just get tired of working on yourself and just didn't pick or just didn't pick yourself up and just stayed stagnant? And I'll tell you, yeah, like, that's the biggest battle with like the change or whatever, is that
He's about to say something so profound.
I know.
Oh.
Are you back? We missed it, didn't we?
Yeah,
Life-changing information.
It froze. You were like right here. You were like in the moment, and then in that moment.
Dramatic pause. What was the ending?
Yep.
Yeah, God was speaking through me at that moment, and you guys lost it.
Yeah, it was silent on this end, so.
That's God right there. I was just saying that, like, it when people tell you to be in the moment or be where your hands are at or whatever, that sometimes that really sucks, because I'm like in emotional turmoil, and I'm stagnant and I'm in a rut, right? And I don't want to make a good decision, and I want to get resentful, and I'll make a decision based off those short-term emotions that are going to affect me for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And so how do you get out of that is the only answer that has ever worked for me is that I need to not make decisions at that moment. I need to just like separate myself, from whatever the situation is, and just let time heal a little bit, right? Just let time kind of get through it and then get back into the game. Because,
Yeah. And that's where a sponsor or a mentor comes in super handy. Just someone to give me a little bit of guidance to move forward. And oftentimes I've gotten tired of like, I don't want to go to meetings anymore. I don't want to do this. It's just so, I'm busy. All the excuses. And yeah, you get tired of working on yourself. And that feeling, at least in my experience for me, is just telling me I need to start helping other people and not think about myself so much. Just give rides, talk, make phone calls, see how somebody else's day is going, and it will change your entire day. And so the more I think about me, the more problems I have, Right. And it seems like life just falls into place if I can just take the next right action and try and be kind and helpful and not take everything personal. Nothing is about me, and I assume I know what you're thinking. I assume you hate me. That's usually what I go with,
That's the default.
You think I'm dumb.
Yep. Well, it is 8:39, and you are listening on the F5 Recovery Radio here on KRFF 95.9. But we wanted just to send a special shout out and ask to our business owners, managers, and nonprofit organizations, if you consider advertising, why not learn what underwriting is on a nonprofit community radio station like Radio Free Fargo? If you'd like to learn more about what underwriting is, please contact Radio Free on Facebook, or you can find them on their website, radiofreefargo.org. Let listeners know that you support your community by supporting a community radio station here at 95.9. So for our next question, I want to kind of dive a little deeper and get a little more vulnerable. Is there any current risks right now that you're contemplating taking in your life, whether it be, with recovery, with your job, with your families, whatever, that you'd be willing to kind of share, that you're kind of like, I don't know if this risk is something I want to take or something I want to do? Anything right now that you're kind of like,
what are you risking, Adam?
Yeah.
I gotta think.
You don't have to take it too deep, or you can take it deep, whatever you feel. It's just millions of listeners.
Yeah.
Millions and millions of people that are going to hold me accountable. Every day with F5 is a risk, because we got so much stuff going on throughout the entire state or whatever. So it's hard to keep a pulse on everything, and it's hard with risk. Making decisions can either be really detrimental to the organization because you're not thinking it through or whatever. We're just not in a position where we can take super wing it kind of high risk, decisions anymore. And so we're kind of like an institution now. So we hired a controller. Her name's Camille Walken, and she is a financial expert, has a lot of leadership experience, and having her on the team she's not the risk. She's the person that's going to help calculate things for me to take risk, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And so she started on Monday, and she's already, she just came in swinging or whatever and changed some things that we were doing that we didn't know that we were doing, that we shouldn't, not that we shouldn't have been doing, but it just wasn't really benefiting anything. And changing those things to benefit us more. So it's been great having someone on staff that has that background and has that understanding and is super smart. And we talk we'll probably butt heads or whatever, because I am a risk taker and she'll be more of a calculated kind of risk taker. And I was just so we're on the same page, if you present all the evidence to me that we should not do something, and I go ahead and do it. Like, are we good?
That's how your dating app should be.
And she's just like, at the end of the day, she's like, you like built this company and you've led this or whatever, and a lot of it's been on gut and it's been on risk or whatever, and she may not like it or whatever, but she understands that like business is a risk, right? And sometimes going down the right path or whatever instead of left, or with and the evidence says not to go, but like my gut feel just based off environment and experience and stuff like that, sometimes it works, and it works like it, and it doesn't make sense why it should work, but it works. So, but I promise that I'm not going to do that every single time. So I'm going to lay off a little bit.
That's nice of you. That's
Yeah.
nice of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think a risk, it so depends on the day. There are still times where I'm paralyzed by fear, and it's risky to get groceries. It feels like a scary thing some days. And other days, life is super smooth. When I quit working at a halfway house and doing counseling and I decided to stay home, I was so scared that we wouldn't be okay financially, that I don't know how to stay home with kids. My gosh, I don't know that I even like kids that much,
Nope.
So, but I wanted to be a part of their lives, and it felt like the biggest risk I'd ever taken. And ironically enough, the next day I quit on a Thursday, or I was done on a Thursday, and on Friday my husband got fired from his job. And I just thought, and I go, "You did this on purpose." And he's like, "That doesn't even make sense." I'm like, "I know, I'm just so scared, I don't know what to do." But it's totally fine, He always gets a better job, and that's good. But and so it was really scary. There's so many risky times, and in having kids, I've had to rename things, like maybe let's call a candy, an apple a candy bar, or whatever,
Right.
just to get them motivated to do something. But when the kids were afraid, we just switched it to like, "Are you really excited to try this new thing?" Instead of, "I am so scared,"
Right.
And then as you say things to your kids, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is good for me. I'm going to use this." And it's very true. I can either tell myself that I'm paralyzed with fear, or I can just say I am really excited and a little nervous to try something new. But either way, it'll be okay, Either way, it'll be okay. So just in renaming things like that and taking the negativity out of it, you empower yourself to try, And my middle son, when he was younger, he said one day, "God's not afraid of the boogeyman." And I just thought, holy, that was actually pretty profound, He's also the kid, though, that scared me in the middle of the night, and I said, "Jesus," and he goes, "No, it's Sawyer." And I was like, "Oh yeah, commonly I get you mistaken." But it's true, like when you just are in that grateful place, you're just not afraid of the boogeyman. You're not afraid of what can go wrong, because what I worry about never happens. It's the stuff I don't worry about, I don't see coming, and usually handle with grace. So
Yeah.
anyway,
I think right now, kind of my biggest risk was going part-time, so I can just focus more on, being a dad. And it wasn't even necessarily like a financial to Jelsa. No, let me take it back. My wife was very much like, "What are you going to do? How are we going to pay these bills? We got this mortgage, we got insurance, we got all these things." And I was like, "Well, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out." Like this investment, kind of like, the investment in Ricky is going to be better than us not being able to eat. We're not going to get to that point. But it was just more of like, I felt so comfortable taking that risk to be able to just be more of a full-time dad, because I had such a good support system in her, and conversation with my parents and my in-laws and just all the different people. I'm like, "Hey, I might need to lean on you a little bit more, because am taking this risk to go do this, but
And it's hard on your ego. Like now when people say, "What do you do?" I'm like, "I'm a mom." Like I just want to be like, I have degrees. I'm smart. I really can do things, But you don't have to explain that. The gift is like, I know my kids, and so
like I get to have that time. But I think, and that's what it's helpful for those who are like, I'm not sure if I can take this risk. Just really, like you were talking about, like just reframing it, repurposing it, putting it in a different box, but also like who's around you to support you in taking that risk and making sure that you have that if this completely goes awry and completely fails, who are you going to call? You're going to have to say, like, who are you going to like be able to like reach out to say, hey, okay, this did not work. I need your help.
Yeah.
And knowing that I had talked to the people like, hey, I might need your help because I don't know how this is going to go. No one knows how this is going to I mean, God knows, but like no one knows how this is going to go. But I feel so strong about trying this.
Yeah.
And like, can you just be available to me? Like if I call, like, can you just answer? Can you just pick up the phone? Like if I text you, if I come over your house freaking out, like, because I've had to do that and gone over to my mother-in-law's house and like, oh my God, this is what's going on with Ricky. And she just like, it's cool, kind of just like be that. So I think it helps being able to take that risk, knowing you have a good support system, be like, okay, that's cool.
Huge, especially in like marriages, close relationships where your money's together and someone else has the power to like change your life. And I guess through lived experience, I always thought like, if I just keep reminding my husband about all the things he's risking and the times it didn't go right and nagging and blah, 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 then that will help somehow for me to alleviate my fear. But good sponsorship said, why don't you just try being his biggest fan? Like, be his biggest cheerleader, even if it's off a cliff. Just be like, you did great, baby, and so in knowing how it feels to be on the receiving end of what it feels like is disappointment, but it's probably just somebody's concern. I need a cheerleader. I just need a cheerleader. And so to have that one person that's just like, okay, well, if you want to try it, let's go all in, If it doesn't work, it's okay. I'm not going to punish you for an idea not working, but we do that often, especially in close relationships, which is too bad. So
I'm not very good at cheerleading. I've never
it's the skirt
for anybody. I mean, even my kid, like, I'm just like, I don't know. It's not that I have a hard time telling people that they did a good job or that they're doing amazing or that, cheer them on or whatever. I just don't think of it.
Yeah.
I'm more of like the guy, I'm more along the lines of like helping create the structure for someone to do good things.
Which is cheerleading,
Yeah, that's like my like form like of cheerleading is that like if I'm helping or if I'm like, paying attention or whatever, I guess, then but I don't ever think about like my kids will look at me like really weird if I'm like, hey man, you did a good job. They're like, are you okay? Like it's not like on purpose. I don't have like a super high bar for people around me. I just don't ever. I don't know. I just don't ever
friends.
Yeah. I'd rather, I think I don't think it's like ego or anything. I just want to be helpful or whatever. So like if people are doing a good job, I want to help them do an even better job. So like, I just want to like, navigate through it, like and then like provide some, some resources or something to even take it to another level if they want,
yeah.
Yeah.
I think guys,
that's me saying good job. Like I'm helping you. That's me because I think you're doing a great job.
Right.
So in watching my husband watch the boys play baseball, and I'm thinking baseball because I spend so many hours there over the summer, but when they're done with the game, he loves them to death, and he wants to help them be better. He'd say, okay, let's start batting practice. When you do this, maybe do this. And I can just see in their eyes, like, they feel like they've disappointed him or that they did something wrong, So, so I just, we talked about that. Matt and I talked about that. And we thought, they already know the stuff that they need to work on. Just like in life, everybody, I already know what I need to work on. I'm my own worst critic. So if I just have somebody, when they come off the field, to be like, that was the most amazing catch, even if they had a bad game, just say, man, you never gave up. You kept a great attitude, to pick up on the stuff that they do well, and they just want to do more of it, because they really do want approval. Just like me, I want approval. I want somebody to say, good job, not like, you're the most unorganized, chaotic, which is what I am, but that's okay. And so in watching my kids flourish in that kind of environment, especially with their dad, I don't know why it's just like how I can tell them 1,000 times. And then Matt says it once and they're like, oh, that's brilliant. I'm like, oh my Lord.
It's just a dad, like, especially with boys, it's a dad thing.
Yeah.
It's just,
and that's cool. I want him to be their hero. And he is.
Yeah. My son, or like Brecken and Nicholas or whatever, they love baseball. They're like super into baseball. And so, but they don't want to take, you're right. They feel like if I get involved and start like, pointing out things that they could work on, that they failed.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So like now, like my thing is those two really complement. They've built, like the kids have like kind of built their own little ecosystem of like helping one another and busting each other's balls and making fun, or whatever. And if I get involved, like it's not the same. It's like real culture happens when leadership is not in the room.
Yeah.
Right. And so I just kind of let them do their own thing. And then, but I noticed when they do something that like I feel like they screwed up in sports, if I make fun of it in like a light humor way or whatever, they respond to that better than they do with me trying to correct it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Because, mistakes happen.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Right.
And, yeah.
So, like, when Brecken beaned a guy, I brought it up to her. I was like, man, you did great. I mean, you beaned a lot of guys out there today. Good job, bud. And he'll just laugh and shrug it off,
Right.
Yeah. And that's awesome. That's just, anyway, we're willing to learn as parents, that's for sure, because I do not know what I'm doing at all. And I have a very black and white thinker as a first child, and then the middle one is like, whatever goes, And the other day, the oldest walked by, the oldest being very rules, walked by the middle and said, do I smell my shampoo on you? And Sawyer, the middle one, he's like, what are you talking about? He goes, that is my special shampoo. Mom got that for me because I have dry scalp or whatever. And I just thought, what is going on right now? And so the middle one goes, you are tripping. And he goes, no, I am walking. And I was just like, oh, Lord, this is painful. This argument is painful. Anyway, but it's just two very different perceptions of life. And they handle risk very differently. It has to be very calculated for Jack, and Sawyer will just go into it guns blazing, adjust as needed, Yep.
Which I think that's the beautiful thing with risk and how it comes to recovery. Like everyone does it differently. Everyone's risk tolerance is different. Just the hope is that I'm just grateful that in all all my different circles and life and all the things like that that we're not all just gun blazers. Yeah, we're not just all just just like, oh, we'll see what happens. Like there are the people that kind of balance out the maybe you shouldn't. Yeah. Like to Adam's point with our new controller, it's like sometimes it's good. Like the gut can work and can do different things, but sometimes it doesn't. But if I didn't have anyone to be able to like, hey, here's another thought of it, or here's another perspective of it, then I would just always keep probably doing really, really well, but I would have these like such significant highs and such significant lows. I would never know that there's a middle, or that there's something different. Like, hey, you didn't have to do that because you could try it this way. Yeah. Most of the time, like my wife will suggest it, and I'm like, and I'll just be like, no, and I won't. And then my sister will say it, and it'd just be like, Lisa, you're a genius. And I might be like, I told you that 5 years ago. And I'm like, well, I wasn't ready then, or whatever it was. But like, sometimes I don't want to always have the same. I don't want to have a lot of me. I want to have a lot of different people and perspectives.
Be humble enough to learn from other people and talk to the elders. They've lived it all. They've done it all already. And because I know as a kid, you look at your parents like you were never young or cool, and your music is dumb.
Yeah, which is funny. I make sure that Ricky listens to all of my music now. That's all he's going to know. He's not going to know his own music. He's only going to know 90s and 2000s hip-hop.
Yeah, I don't know. I just like 90s grunge, actually, and Combat Boots, but...
I can see that.
Yeah.
I don't even know what my kids listen to. I think they listen to stuff that I don't really understand. I don't know there's a lot of reverb, The
music Nick makes is... I just can't quit bragging about that kid when I see him on...
He makes...
Oh, my gosh.
Rooch the Rapper. Go look him up.
So yesterday, when I was in the prison or whatever, I was meeting with the guys. This guy comes up to me, he's like, "Hello, Mr. Martin," and like put out his hand to like shake it like we were like in a professional setting, which was super cool. He was like, "I know your son," and I was like, "I hope you're talking about my oldest one." He was like, "Yeah, I know Rooch," and I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And I can't remember his name, and I feel horrible. And I can't because I was going to tell Nick about it. But I'll tell you what, like, I bet you at least once a week, or maybe once every couple of weeks, there's always some random person that walks up to me that they'll say, "Are you Adam Martin?" I'm like, "Yeah." And then they'll say, "I follow you. I'm a super big fan. By the way, I know your son Rooch." And so it's like a running thing between me and my son or whatever, whenever we're like in public and if we get recognized or whatever. And then we wait to see what they say. They'll say, "That's Rooch's dad," or "That's Adam's son." Yeah. And then we hold on to that to like throw it in each other's faces.
That's awesome. Yeah, he's an example of risk taking that worked out, and he hit a lot of roadblocks. But anyway, he's a great.
He's moving to St. Cloud, and he's signed up to go to St. Cloud University.
Yep.
Yeah, he can do anything. He's amazing.
Dude, he's a hustler, man. Like he puts in a ton of effort and is accomplishing a lot of great things. I'm really super proud of him.
And his attitude, that's what I love the most. Anyway, we're running out of seconds here, but his attitude's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, with our close, this has been F5 Recovery Radio. This is One Pretty Ricky. Got Adam Martin, Kirsten Huovinen. Thank you all so much for tuning in live on Facebook. We appreciate you and everyone listening live on the radio. Do you guys have anything you want to share before we close?
No, take some risks. I don't know.
Take risks.
Take risks. Do it. Find your support system and take that leap of faith. So tune in next week. We will be back and having another amazing program for you. And then we have some guests that are going to be coming up in July. And Laura Headland, we'll shout you out now. I'm going to hit you up. We're going to get you on the show in August. So, yeah, we got just a lot of really, really great content. So thank you all so very much for being here. And we will see you, and you'll listen to us very soon.